Mothers, tell your children not to eat laundry detergent. And watch out for the blue whale next on Jinka Jabo. Well, times are indeed here, starting out in 2018 with the recent Tide Pod Challenge. But I wonder how much of it is real and how much of it can just be attributed to basic meme logic, meme life for teenagers. I say that because the whole idea of the Tide Pod Challenge, which to fill anyone in who hasn't heard it, is that teenagers have been eating this new pod, this kind of synthetic plastic thing. It looks like candy or a treat. They've been eating it and vaping it and smoking it on YouTube. And YouTube has recently stopped allowing those videos. They've started taking them down, which is great. But this kind of reminds me of, there have been many challenges, like drinking water and all this. There's stupid nonsense all the time, and some of it's harmless and some of it's very meaningful. But at the same time, I look at American media and I look at American discourse, especially from all my time overseas, and I wonder how much of it is just trapped in this meaningless symbolism, how deep we get into it. Which makes me think that there's levels of irony to this Tide Pod Challenge that people aren't really aware of and not really appreciating. And it's the simple fact that if you tell someone not to do something, they will crawl over their dead relatives to try doing it. It's the whole ridiculous labeling thing, like The Simpsons did it best, where they had the missile and it said aim away from face. You know, do not eat the plastic. You'll choke on this balloon, it'll kill you. Yeah, it'll kill me, I'm going to try it. I'm going to bite into one of these, and I'm going to get millions of views, and people are going to see that. And I don't know who's taking it seriously. Who has died? Or to what extent this is just a major affront to advertising and all of that. But it's strange. It's like a double-edged sword, because making fun of it and eating it in spite of it looking absolutely delicious and wanting to try it and thinking that it's worth actually eating just to show how strong you are, how meme-worthy you are as a content creator. There's that, and then there's the, you have to understand that everyone knows what a Tide Pod is right now. And there has to be some kind of marketing angle to it, which is kind of disgusting. You always get suspicious. I've seen the Tide Company before, and it's a company that, as an American, I grew up with, washing my clothes with, you know. And I remember them on Tide Goes In, Stains Come Out. On the remember when Bill O'Reilly did the Tide Goes In, Tide Goes Out. Never a miscalculation. It's always or something, some scientific point he was trying to prove about God. But gosh, that's already like 7 years ago that all this stuff was happening with Bill O'Reilly. Anyway, you tell people not to eat Tide Pods, and they do it, and it's been embarrassing because, of course, I am a cosmopolitan person. You know, I exist in different countries, different worlds. And so I get a different insight on America, and it's embarrassing when things like this happen and people say, well, this is just a sign of what Americans are, and this is another example of American shitposting going too far and too crazy and influencing teenagers to actually hurt themselves in different parts of the world. So anyway, I'm not sure who has died from this challenge yet, or if anyone has died yet. And it's hilarious. I saw a picture on Twitter of, I think it was a Walmart in rural flyover America, you know. And it had their Tide Pods locked up in a case with a padlock so that people couldn't go in and buy it. And it kind of reminds me of how Sudafed was sold that way, or it's still sold that way in many convenience stores, outlets, in rural America and rural Wisconsin is what I remember. Because people were buying it to make methamphetamines, which is considerably more serious, you know. This ice feels good. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a more serious thing that was going on when I first got to Vietnam, and it's dated a couple of years now, but it's actually something that has taken the lives of teenagers, and it started from a meme on a Russian social media website, and it's called the Blue Whale Game or the Blue Whale Challenge. And actually, the creator of this meme or this challenge, this 20-something Russian fellow, was actually thrown into jail for it. It's been connected to hundreds of suicides, in fact, but it's only been confirmed for a few of them. But this game works this way. What happens is you become the blue whale for someone else, and they decide everything that you do for the span of 50 days. You have to do everything that they say. And it starts very innocuous. It starts very easy, like, okay, you have to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and watch a horror movie is one example. But it gets more and more complicated and more serving to the ego, until finally you tell that person, okay, on the 50th day you have to kill yourself. And several teenagers, Russian teenagers in some very bleak countryside, which I'm sure rivals my native Wisconsin, they have actually gone through with this. And it's created a panic. And of course it was exaggerated by the media. Many people heard about it and forgot about it. But I just found the entire imagery dark. And it's said to come from either the lyrics to a Russian rock band talking about being a blue whale trapped in a net, or the simple biological fact that blue whales will periodically beach themselves and just die, and we're not sure about why. So, the blue whale challenge is like an avenue to suicide, and it's like a very extreme game. And I'm thinking about it because when I first got here, there are different categories of nightmares that a person has. A neurotic individual like myself, it might be related to trauma or whatever. I don't have nightmares that often anyway. But every now and then I will picture some really dark mythical thing. There's such a thing as an international nightmare. Like, I think of some of the very vivid nightmares I had in the very sober setting of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which had lots of dark Islamic imagery. Which I'll get into someday, perhaps. Or if not with you, maybe with a personal therapist, psychiatrist. But I remember one nightmare, maybe my first nightmare, the one that I remember when I first got here to Vietnam almost 2 years ago now, was the nightmare of seeing myself when I was much younger as a teenager and encountering the blue whale and seeing that as a symbol of suicide and death when young. Now, of course, it was only a dream, and it was kind of it was aesthetically pleasing dream. You have those dreams that have lots of colors and great images, and it wasn't something that I found necessarily depressing, but I woke up the next morning very haunted by it, like seeing the beauty of the death and all of that, and seeing the beauty of my younger self, sort of a Dorian Gray type effect going on. And I looked it up, and I found out about the Russian game, the Blue Whale Game. And it's not just Russia, it's happened in other countries around the world. And it's made the blue whale for me like a symbol of death. And as much as I remember when I lived in Winona a few summers back out in Minnesota on the Mississippi River, I was reading a lot because I wasn't working. I was looking for work at the time. And I picked up Wally Lamb's She's Come Undone. And She's Come Undone is written from the perspective of a woman who is overweight and just kind of a failure in life. And it's told by this pretentious... And it's one of those books that maybe talking about it now, I'm cursed to finish reading it at some other point. But I started reading it and I just hated it. And it's something that I never do. I never pick up a book and not finish, even if I hate it. Because even if I hate it, I want to figure out why. But it was one of those where the whole image of the fat girl, the beached whale, the blue whale who has just come to shore to die and to be useless and just to take up space, like, that's just a little too dark even for someone as jaded and as cynical as yours truly. However, I will hope that you will notice, especially one person in particular, an older brother, I'm saying, like, if you want to listen to me now in front of your kids or something, I've decided to stop swearing. So I'm going to make that promise to you. And thanks to anyone else who is watching my show. So peace.